not naturally. It's because I started stretching when I was like 7 or 8. I was really into martial arts and people were doing these crazy split kicks. And so I was stretching like crazy so I can do these moves. When I started to practice yoga, I was naturally flexible. Not naturally, it's because I started stretching when I was like 7 or 8. I was really into martial arts and people were doing these crazy split kicks. And so I was stretching like crazy so I can do these moves. So I maintained stretching throughout my life. So when I started learning into yoga, it was still difficult because you're bending in different ways, but I had a background and I was like, okay. But even for somebody like me that I was stretching, I was like, wow, if I was to go and become better, I have to do these moves. Like how would other people even start? This is really tough. And then I learned you don't need to do all of these moves to accomplish connecting to yourself. You can do really basic moves, really simple moves, and still break past that armor that's stopping us from the ability to connect to ourselves, stopping us from the ability to feel our actual body. We don't need to do complicated moves. And so I started to look to see which moves are the most important that can accomplish that. And over time, I started finding moves that take the tension off the backside of our body, particularly our spine, because our spine is the energy highway. And anybody that studies into chakras, which are energy centers in the body, they understand this. You got to get the spine to be very loose and to be flexible. So this way energy can flow up and down the spine. But what about the rest of the body? Well, that's important, but the spine is the primary and everything else helps with that. So then it's not about bending in all these crazy positions. Now yoga is all about who can bend in the craziest ways and who can hold a handstand the longest. Well, what was the reason of even doing a handstand? People are doing it now because they want to look great on Instagram so they can take a cool picture. But the reason for the handstand is to go ahead and invert the blood. Why invert the blood? So this way you can open up the energy. But how many people who's learning handstands can go, actually the reason for how handstands was done was so this way we can invert the body. So this way we can focus on focus. So when you're holding it, if your mind's all over the place, you can't focus. But people stop paying attention to that and they start to think about other things. They just look at the move for what it is, just the handstand, versus how about what's actually behind it? What's underneath? What's the foundation of it? Which is focus. People that study deep into yoga understands that. And people that are just kind of looking at it, they don't realize that. And they'll just practice the moves and they don't ever get into the depths of it. And I never really got into a lot of the moves in yoga, because I didn't care about showing off and learning these moves. I wanted to see what is the real science of yoga. Like, what is it really teaching? And then I started looking into other type of practices and I started looking to see what they're really teaching. And over time, I started to find out that the underlying message of religions and yogas and qigongs and all of these things, they're all teaching the same thing. They're all working with the same thing. It's all to get the mind to be more still. It's all for us to be more present. It's all for our bodies to be able to let go, for our energy to be enhanced, and for our awareness to expand. And there's all these different ways of doing so. And the people that haven't looked very far, they look at it and go, my way is the only way. No, not the only way. There's plenty of ways.